What's going on? It's your boy, Will Mike Craven. Hit that like, share, subscribe button. Without further ado, on to the video. Well, how you all doing out there? It is a extreme honor to be conducting this interview. One that I don't think I would have ever seen and actually happening in my lifetime, but it's amazing how time can go past and certain things change. So this transpiring is a 100% complete honor to actually be doing. And this person who I actually have on this call and on this video currently is none other than William Jeremiah McCraven. Some of you all may know him out there as Elder McCraven or Elder Mac, but I know this man to be my father, my dad, and he would be, from my beginning existence, as William McCraven Sr., which I'm humbly honored to actually be named William McCraven Jr. And with that being said, yes, sir, you can address the people out there.
Praise the Lord to all, and to all many more blessings.
Yes, sir. So, I wanted to do this with you, considering the fact that you came up, born in 1950, came up during the 60s and in the early 70s, and those are some very monumental years throughout the course of our history in United States of America. And in this day and age, we have seen a lot shift and a lot transpire. And I want to talk to you about the relationship world. And I brought you on because I wanted to get your take on it, and a lot of people actually get a chance to understand how things used to be. And with that being said, what was it like dating back in your younger years?
Sir, it was different, very different, because I came up in a time where it was an honor to be a lady. So it's quite different than today. They were allowed to be called a lady, first of all, was only done in the high society and the areas where people wealthy were called ladies and gentlemen. And so as time went, that honor was bestowed to those in the middle of common people. And it was a great honor. It was such a great honor that any female that went anywhere, it was immediately, the men changed the way they operated 100%. And it would be hollered out, a lady's in the presence. And before that, there might be some profanity said, but people didn't use it nowhere near the profanity they use today. So when I'm laying this little bit of foundation just to get to, so the people that don't know, didn't grow up in my time, and know just how much different it is now to live in a time like it is today, opposed to what you grew up in when I grew up. When I grew up, it took a village to raise a son. When I grew up, men were still in the home. The government hadn't gotten to where it did what it wanted to do to bring up and destroy the minority homes, especially the African-American home, and take the man out of it. Before then, it was equal but separate, and African-Americans had colleges and everything that the Caucasian people had, we were allowed to have. So we had a man in the home. Guaranteed you couldn't go to anybody's house without there being a man. And that man answered the door. He was the protector. He made sure whoever come to that door, it was his responsibility to keep that home protected. That the Bible says, that old school teaching, that the man was left in a place of protection. And God put that on Adam after the sin applied. It was also at that time where a man went to work to do just what God said. He was the provider. He was the head of the home. And the woman was taught differently. She was taught to be one that would aid him and never hinder him. So she was a helpmeet, someone that would meet the needs of his help. So when I came up to call what they call dating, there was no such thing about falling in love with somebody because we were taught you grew to love something. It was a seed and it had to be watered. As, as time went up in the 70s and 80s, they began to change the way love was because sex became such a thing. So when I grew up, to put your arm around a girl was an honor. That you got away with something. Just to touch her was an honor. Sit next to her, that was an honor because you didn't think sexually about a female. She was a lady. So you just didn't think that way about it. She wasn't some bone that you're going to chew on and lick on and throw somewhere, hide or something, come back to. But that way, she was a lady. She carried herself that way. Her dress was that way. She learned that a lady never opened up her legs. So that's the last thing she wanted to do was be caught with a pair of pants on. Because the pair of pants would have her legs open, and that would let you know she's not a lady. She's some type of street woman.
Wait,
And
wait,
that was
wait,
the
wait,
worst
wait.
thing.
So hold on. I want to get this straight, and you can continue. So you're telling me that the majority of women back then didn't wear a dress, and the pants actually signified that she was a different type of woman?
If she put on pants, she was a street woman. She was fast. She was a tomboy. Everything that indicated something around masculinity or a man, because that's what pants represent. The pants represent working. You put on pants because you can work and open your leg. You can get across a horse. You can jump over a bench. It's to open your legs. Ladies never opened their legs. Ladies rode on a bicycle cross saddle with their legs together. Ladies always kept their legs together because the most important thing about a lady was a private area to be protected. That's what the man was going to do. He was going to make sure that any fella came there, and I got that story about the man. I came and knocked on the door and going to have a date with the young lady. And the daddy was there. He did what he was supposed to do. He greeted me at the door and saw my car. And I just started working in a steel mill in 1969. And you got your little chest out, you got a car and stuff, and you come by, and some of your friends, some of their parents didn't even have a car. So the guy asked me, son, where you get that car from? I showed him my badge. I work at Endless Steel, and he felt a little better. He said, well, this guy, he probably one of them street runners and gang banger or dope pusher worse. Huh? And so, yeah, you can come in, sir. My daughter's sitting over there on the couch. She told me a little bit about you. So he sat there in his easy chair in front of the TV set and got his paper and eyeball creeping, looking. He got the couch just where he can see the couch, where his daughter is, but the other end of the couch. And them long sofas back in the day. So, 3-4 people could sit up in the couch back in the day and then be comfortable. So I'm sitting on the long end of the sofa. And the young lady started saying, come on over here. No, girl, I can't sit that close to you. She said, no, come on over. My daddy ain't going to bite you. And I knew how I was brought up back then. You didn't want to sit that close to no girl. And if you got to sit next to her, y'all were already just steady. And you were honored that way that you were steady meant you thinking about being married. That's the only thing you dated for was. You were dating to find you a wife and dating to find the right husband. Nothing else. You ain't trying to kiss them. You ain't trying to touch them. You definitely wasn't thinking about having no sex. That was never in the picture. So now I'm sitting there nervous because I can tell the dad is peeking and watching how close I'm going to get to his daughter. He going to make sure she stay a lady because back then some of the spheres started changing and female was starting to get more promiscuous, wanting to be and talking about, I want to do what a man do. And so that was hidden, but it was coming out in the late 60s and 70s. It started sneaking its way all the way out in the 80s. But anyway, we're back in the 60s. So eventually she convinced me, when they get you in trouble if you let them. So she convinced me because the guy just said that old song, "A Man Love a Woman." So she got me, got to about 3 seats next to her, and the dad started ruffling the papers a little bit more. And I think at that time I looked back, I realized that meant the sign, you getting a little too close. But I didn't pay no attention because I was green. I didn't know nothing about really dating me, and I was green. So and he ruffled the papers, and I didn't know. And she said, I said, well, why is he peeking, ain't he? No. That's just you. You just third. He ain't going to care. He don't mind if you sit next to me. We don't think like that. We ain't going to do nothing wrong. We ain't do nothing. And my dad is there beside. And I'm like, I ain't got that on my mind no kind of way. I just come to, go out and eat with the girl. Go get a hamburger and come on back, and drop off. So she's sitting there, but some of the girls was into more than that. Their minds have started changing. Their minds started getting a little different. They wanted to kiss and stuff. Kiss me. I want to know how my girlfriend got a kiss. I want to know what it's like. So some of the guys, we was behind. So then there was some that was in the street. They talked to some quick, but I hadn't gotten out in the street enough yet. So anyway, long story short, I ain't working again. I'm more respectful to the guy, and plus he's bigger than me. I'm scared of the guy too. My daddy was a big guy, and I'm about weighing 160 at the time or so, 165, and he was every bit 200-pound guy, and looking at me when he came in, I sized me up when I came in the door. So I said, I wouldn't want to fight this dude right here. So anyway, long story short, she ended up getting me about, maybe a space between her and a little bit more. And she's trying to get me to come sit right almost on her. So the guy ruffled the papers while I was moving closer, and I didn't get it. So finally, he got up like he was going to go into the kitchen to get him something. And all of a sudden, he made a quick 90 on me. And before I noticed, he was sitting halfway on my leg. And I'm like, and she said, Daddy. And he looked at me, and I said, sir, and he lifted his leg just up enough to see if I was going to move my leg from under. I didn't waste no time. I got my leg from underneath that man, moved over to the side, made my mind up. This ain't what I want to do. She was a lady when I got here. As far as I'm concerned, she's going to stay a lady. I ain't coming back here because if I want to learn about these other women, this ain't the kind. She's a lady. And the daddy, he going to make sure she's still a lady because he's protecting her. So the man had protected her in a way to keep her to be a lady. She stayed a lady, at least for me. And she said, don't let my daddy scare you from coming back. And he said, young man, you seem like you're an okay person and everything and that. And I guess, because I got off from underneath his leg,
Oh yeah,
and
then
that was
you said you had a car that most people didn't have at the time. So yeah, that kind of helped you out a little bit too.
And a job. I had a job which was where I lived at. A steel mill job was it was like some of the college people wasn't making the type of money as some of the people in the steel mill. So some of my college friends that they went down to Bloomington and into Terre Haute to IU and Indiana State and Purdue. They came back and found out how much money I was making. Man, I don't know if I should go and get my degree. I said, well, get your degree and come back and you can start out as a salary foreman and pick the job you want more, and that started to do with the labor stuff. So that's what some of them did. But anyway, yeah, I had that car. That car took me places, but I learned it was quite some time that girls grew up still to be ladies. And you could tell. You said, now this is the one to marry. This is the one to play with. This is the one right here. This is the one here. And later, it wasn't long after that the word freak came out. Freak. So if you really wanted to have a time on the bad side, you looking for a freak. But if you wanted somebody that you thought you might be interested and you have a family, you was looking for the lady. So there was a big difference between the freak and the lady back then, but now they about the same. Well, there ain't no ladies today. Today you ain't hardly got no ladies. They're exempt because women don't want to be ladies. They just don't want to be that. The women today, they have that spirit to be like a man. Not telling them about equal to man. They just want to be a man. And they don't realize the devil has got them biting to the curse that was put on a man. Working is a curse. That's why men do all they know how to do to get off. They don't want to work, go work. It's a curse. Now a woman wants to take on a man's curse and thinks she's getting it from underneath her curse. And he told her, no, you will have a man for the rest of your life. And that man, no matter whether you don't have a husband, you say I'm a single parent, there's some man still there. There's a daddy, there's an uncle, there's a granddaddy, and that man is being the covering, even when you don't know it, because that's what God has for a man to do. He's to be the covering of a woman. And today, most people have no clue about a soulmate. So you go out looking for everything but a soulmate. Soulmate is someone y'all just hook up together. Your souls come together. And they're prosperous because the two people are doing what the golden rule says. Nothing else. They know the 10 Commandments and they're following them. And God has principles and they follow those principles. And their souls are doing what pleases the God that they serve, the Lord. Whether you call him Jehovah, some people, the Christian folk, just say God now. They don't even give him a name no more. They're scared to say Jehovah because they might be hooked up or called some different type of religious group or something. But the Old Testament says his name was Jehovah. And there's a meaning for that. He is I am God. Now, Elohim is the creator. Jesus created everything. That's right there in the book. So now back to your story that you want me to talk about dating. Back then, no matter where you was at, I didn't grow up in a religious family. My dad was a Baptist deacon, and my mom was at a Methodist preacher in her side of her house. But I grew up back then. It was the 10 Commandments: honor thy mother, honor that, all those things. Thou shalt not steal, and don't curse. So I grew up with those things still, and we had moral. There's no such word as a moral today. People don't know how to say yes, sir, yes, ma'am. It's a bad word. Submission was done. No such thing. People don't want to submit to nothing, nobody. Contrary, in every way and form. Want to fight. Everything's about fighting. Want to debate, argue. Those are things that just didn't really go on back then. And it's so funny when somebody cussed, you knew they was mad. Something was wrong right away. Today, people cussing, it's a common thing. Kids children cuss. Everybody cuss. Because the scriptures say, right in there is where you know what's going on. Because it said it's an evil word. And it said corrupt communication will corrupt good manners. So when I grew up, there was manners. Manners. That comes from the man being a gentleman. By what? The older women taught me, look, son, watch this. It takes a lady to make a gentleman. Where there's gentlemen, you'll find a lady. And that was true. The reason the women say that there ain't no good men because they're not being raised to be men. They're being raised to be pimps and wimps. They put an earring in the little child. He don't know nothing about none of that. What does he got an earring? And first of all, earrings are back in days of old. They had a meaning. They meant that someone owns you. And the more priceless the earring was or the nose ring was, the wealthier the person was that was you were serving to. So if you had gold earrings, you had somebody that was quite well off. If you had wood in your ear, somebody had you that didn't have that much. But they represented that someone owned you. So later, people who were rebelling put earrings in their ear to show that, hey, I own myself. Ain't nobody own me. I'm a pirate. I own myself. I'm a rebel. I own myself. But that's what they represented. So now the devil makes people think the earring is a fashion and they represent women. All in the word of God, the men had earrings first. Take off your earrings. The men had earrings on. They took them off. The gold calf came from the men's earrings. Told them take your earrings off. And they did.
When you said that, I did just learn something new. I had no idea that they use wood for earrings, but that's very interesting because all my brain can see was something looking like a toothpick in somebody's ear. Which technically we did. Oh, when I was a kid, they had like little straw that they put in your ear when they first pierced your ear. But yeah, I don't know why my mind was thinking toothpick. But with that being said, you start talking about the mannerisms and morals and stuff. So And you did mention in there about courting. So did you all actually call it dating, or was it actually something else before you actually with the female or the woman or lady you were interested in?
Well, son, if I may say so, sir, they had a program called the dating game. People went on dates. You went on a date to court. Courting meant you were going in an espousement, which is in the Bible, and a lot of places espousement was for 2 years, and you operated as though just as you was as married. It was your time to get to know someone. So that's what courting amounted to, was a time to get to know the person. So you're courting. Courting to do what? To marry. Now, sometimes you courted with someone and it didn't end up in a marriage because you realize before you went that far, because this was very serious, marriage. It always will be. And there's a difference between marriage and holy matrimony. See, it says what God put together, let no man put asunder. But 90 probably, I don't know, I don't want to put no percent on it, but a large percent of people getting married, especially today, have not been put together by God. They're put together by lust and somebody else. And because people today think they're falling in love, well, if you fell in it, that's why you're going to end up falling out of it. Because that you don't fall in love. Love is already what it is. But you can grow in love. That seed is planted. You get to like the person first. It's like anything else that you like. And if you keep on, you start loving it. Say, oh, I love that. But why do you love it? Because something about it caused you to grow that way. Why do you hate something? Something about it caused you to dislike it. So a seed there, and you watered it. That thing got watered and somebody else watered. But it needed to get watered. So yes, sir, we dated with mindset to marry because it was sacred. You remember, sex wasn't like it's known today and that. You had X-rated stuff. You had pornography, and there always will be pornography. But it was in a book. It was rarely that you could go somewhere and watch it on the movie, and let alone on TV or the television, which they called it back in my day, because they say you keep watching that stuff, it's starting to change. And a show named Peyton Place came out, and Peyton Place, before, women and men never got seen in the same bed. There was an uproar because they were ladies. Ladies uproared there. I remember going to a West Side concert, and they had the Funkadelics there, and they had a song out that said S with the shirt in it, and they used the GD, get off of your tail and dance. And so they came out like the Funkadelics did, diapers and crazy everything. And so some of the women that didn't know, they brought their children because some of the show and concert was clean, but the Funkadelics didn't come out that way. So they came out, and I saw women, and I realized they were ladies coming off the pews with their hands, sticking them in their children's ears. Ladies, you hear what I'm saying, sir?
Yes,
Ladies
sir.
putting their hands in. They wanted to make sure that their kids weren't not polluted with that profanity that was going to be said and was starting to be said. They took them on out. I mean, dozens and dozens of women going down there. And then you looked around and you saw some men grabbing the kids up to and say, man, wait a minute. They ain't got no business hearing this. This ain't for kids to hear. This is the wrong kind of thing for them to hear. Now, the little shorties are right there. The music is going on. It is so vulgar, and it downplays the women. I asked the young lady, why you got the BT on your license plate? Number 3, not BT1. And she says, I'm thankful I'm number 3. You thankful you number 3? You got the B on the license plate. Ain't nothing wrong with being a B. I said, my God, we done gone so far backwards. Do you understand what a B is? Obviously, they don't. Have no clue.
Yeah, well, things have definitely changed. Although I will ask, about how old were you at that concert?
Early 20s. Between when I graduated, 22.
Okay.
So that would have been 1969 to 1972, somewhere in there. And they begin to, maybe in 73, but somewhere in there, they begin to allow words to be on stuff. And that again, because that was the point where women started wanting to be uh, men rather than be ladies. Just that simple. They, you know, I don't have any problem with somebody having a different thought pattern about, but I do have a problem when I'm going to a door and I open the door because that's what I was brought up in. I see them as a lady. I open up the door and she's a female, and then that female tells me I can open the door myself. Not realizing I have just honored her to the highest you could be honored, is addressing you as a lady. To them, that's the worst thing. It's like I get stunned by people saying, I don't want to be called Negro. I'm not a Negro. But you want to be called black. It comes from the Spanish word, it's the same thing. Those people are not white people. They're Caucasian or they're European American. There's no such thing as white people, black people. That's totally racist. It's not in the Bible. It's not in the book. It's not there. When I came up and I got in church, people that were holiness, they were holiness. And they were sanctified. Other folks knew that meant separated, set apart from. And those were the only places you could find real ladies in a sanctified environment. But now the sanctified women, they don't even act like that. Folks don't even want to say they sanctified. Who, you what? They're Christians. Everybody's Christian. In holiness, there was no such thing as a Christian. It was downplaying Christ. Anybody can be a Christian because you can do anything. You can't even say, what is a Christian? You got too many different ways of Christian. So anyway, when I dated, it wasn't about it was mannerism. So it wasn't about being a Christian. It wasn't about being a Jew. It was just moral mannerism. There was a difference between a lady and a man. In every group of faith, it was that way. You were a lady and a gentleman. Everywhere you went, ladies, they always addressed the lady first. Ladies and gentlemen. So the dating was different because it was ladies and gentlemen. Dating to be married. Dating to be honored and honor God. And staying in those parallels where you wanted to be a lady, you want to be a gentleman. So I hope I didn't go too far right or left with the dating thing.
It's fine. You're sharing extra information in regards to the time you grew up that some may not know, including myself. So out of all of the ladies that you would actually approach or go to the house, was there ever a time a father was not present?
No, sir. Because the time that didn't happen, see, the welfare system was way back around Depression time. And it had a good thing that they did. Roosevelt signed a bill to help poor widows and even more when World War II came, shortly later after the war of World War I came, and left a lot of people, and everything just fell into the Depression. And so it was to help poor people have funds for their kids, the children stuff. But it was used in a very racist way later to eliminate the African American from his headship in his home. And it was purposely that. And then they made projects to put these people, like reservations, where there would be no man there. So because the young man was told all the time and the woman was being brainwashed to talk down on a man instead of being helpful to the man, which happened in slavery time, we would have never made it without those ladies. Those ladies carried us to the day of my time. They carried us. They were the backbone of the family because they were ladies. And they taught us how to be a gentleman. Boy, pull your pants up. So when I went there was always a man to make me realize what a man was supposed to be. He was there to protect the home. He was there to make sure everything was done in the proper perspective, and honor was there. And so your name meant everything. So if you walked around somewhere, not just to the house I went, when you walked around in the community and Mr. Johnson saw you and you weren't doing right, you knew right away you got yourself straight, because there was always men around, and the men always got you to say, hey, fella, ain't you so-and-so's son? Ain't you Mr. McCraven's boy? Yes, sir. And it was always, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. All the time. We had that. We grew up with manners and respect. And you held your name up. Whatever your last name, you were proud. So I'm honored and thankful that my son said what he said. He's honored to be a junior. and I'm honored to be a senior.
Okay, so considering the fact that you said the father was always present, um, you mentioned that you would it was if you were going to date a lady, it was for the courtship and to be married. So, oh yeah, you know what, you did kind of address that too as far as the pants thing, and you knew that lady wasn't, well, that woman wasn't a lady. So I guess kind of what you add in a little something kind of changes the nature of my question. Um, how did you determine if you were actually going to court the lady or if you were going to not treat her like a lady?
The female dictated that. Quite simple, because of the time period I came up in. See, if you was out more in the street and you were clubbing, you weren't looking for no lady. It's just that plain. And it wasn't hard to know the difference. Because of what I'm telling you, you weren't looking. If you were a street person, you were looking for the street girl. She lied to try to wear some pants coming in the club. Because you started seeing that happen. The church people started allowing the pants. And, oh, nothing wrong with pants. But pants resembled work. The curse God put on work. It resembled that you lifting your leg and opening your leg. You were presented to do it because you were a man. Women were not presented to open their legs. That's the bottom line. And lady, so when I saw that, and the lady is sitting loose, you already know she's loose. And more than likely, wasn't no man there. And when you asked me earlier about the dad thing, I got to change some of that because it might not have been a dad there because the dad might have died. But there would be some man, uncle, or big brother. But there was a male figure there that has put it in a position of protecting the female. There was a male there. We grew up different. The movies we saw had that. You saw that. The man was always at the house. The family ate together. And soon you begin to see somebody's over here going to soccer. Somebody's over here going to basketball. And all of a sudden women are at every sport men. They're getting injured like men. They're talking and acting like men because the sports was the way they got into becoming more like men. That was okay. They're in sports. It's just tomboyish. But what really happened was a lot of men, especially in the Caucasian world, did not have a son that they could stand up and say, well, my son. So they started getting their daughters to play softball and basketball and stuff. So they would have somebody to teach to do the things that they would have taught their son. It looks so innocent. And it spread to the other groups. It looks so innocent. And that's where the adversary used his way of slipping in by, as he done with a lot of things, slipping in certain areas. And it seemed so innocent, but it wasn't. So there was a man there. Now, he might not have been the father, the daddy, because the daddy might not have been there. He was dead. He died. But there was a grandfather there. It was some male there. Or the big brother met you at the door because daddy was at work. But some male met you at that door if you went to the lady's house. Now, the difference is when you met a girl out in the club, she ain't taking you home. You didn't go to her home. She had some kind of apartment. So you knew when she had an apartment, she was loose. She won't act like no lady. She gonna act more like the street girl. So you had to decide yourself. The guys who was looking more for a courtship and dating, they were looking for a lady to marry. The guys who was out in the clubs and all that, they weren't looking to be married. They were looking at it, good time today. Hey, I'm looking for good time, sweet Sally. Excuse the expression Sally, because she could have been any name, any other name. But I should have said Sally. I don't want no Sally to be labor. No, she could have been anything. No, dope. She could have been dope. But you were looking for, it depends on, like you asking, what your mindset was. If you were a church type of person, you were looking for a lady, 100%. And even got so bad, the street guy, when he started getting a little better, he said, man, I'm tired of this. I'm going to go look for me a church woman. Because the church was teaching men still to how to be a lady. Ladies had to sit a certain way and fold their skirt, learn how to fold their skirt. They walked a certain way so their stuff wasn't all bouncing all out and showing in that. They call it girdle back then. There's no such thing. They don't probably make them no more girdle. And that held in, girl, you ain't got no girdle on. Your stuff shaking all over the place, like some street woman or something. You don't hear that shit.
I was laughing because I do remember hearing that as a kid. Yeah, I think that my childhood was the last of hearing that type of stuff. You didn't hear the now you don't hear the slips and the girdle stuff as much anymore. Well, they kind of have a girdle, but it's really not a girdle. It's the body shapers now, but it kind of doesn't have the same feel as it did when I was a kid. But
Sir,
yes,
sir,
sir.
can I add this to you? I grew up in a military background, which you heard. And I grew up so that I learned the ways of my Caucasian friends, which was predominantly what I had all the way to 17. And so I learned expressions and everything. And girdle was number one thing from the time that you hit probably 8th grade. You had now put on a girdle. So it was, the guys could tell the girl that was brought up properly the way she sit. And you got certain girls got labeled. And I didn't understand because I'm growing up in that. And they said, man, that's a beaver there. What in the world is a beaver? Now you think what I'm saying, beaver. What's a beaver? Beaver got them two big white teeth in the front.
Right.
So if you could see the girl sitting in the legs a certain way, you see it all the way up to her private area, look like two beaver teeth. And they say, man, that girl, that get beaver, man. She get beaver. You knew she wasn't being taught how to be a lady because you don't see no beaver no more. So the thing I'm saying was, once you put on pants, you didn't have no girdle on, and the girdles are all white, so you knew. That when she get the beaver, man, she get the beaver. She get the beaver there, boy. And so I didn't know, you have to learn. You learn different words and what the beaver. Man, you don't know what the beaver is?
Oh man. Oh,
and when
that's
I got
funny to hear.
Yes, sir. So when I got into the African American community, they wear girdles too. And I told them, I said, man, that girl, you can see the beaver. They didn't know what I'm talking about. And I explained it to them. It went wild all over. Man, that girl is the beaver, man. She the beaver.
Oh man.
They just call it the community open leg. They go open leg for the open leg. I said, no, man, that's the beaver, man. That's the beaver. What are you talking about? The beaver. Look at the two whites in there up there, man. Two big whites looking at you, man.
See, I remember as a kid, my grandmother, my mother's mother, she would tell the girls, she said, close your pocketbook now. I can see all in your pocketbook. Keep it closed. But as a little boy, I never knew what the heck is she talking about pocket. And I just so happened to catch it one day when she told somebody private area. I was like, oh, that's what the pocketbook meant. But to hear as an adult, to hear they called it a beaver.
Yes, sir. And it was a good analysis because it was white, big white looking. Then, see, if you were a bigger girl, you didn't see as much because the legs, the thighs were too high and low.
Right.
But if you were overweight, you saw all the way to two big teeth. So now back to your thought pattern about the pocketbook. The pocketbook was said to be something that you let nobody put their hand on.
Well, I understood it.
Right, yeah. So that was a good analogy too of the pocketbook because I used that with my daughter because she gave it to me and I said that's a good way to talk about that.
The pocketbook is valuable.
Yes, that's your valuable. That's your valuable. And don't let nobody, and therefore you don't want to let nobody look in your pocketbook. So that was a good too. Don't look in that pocketbook. Why you keep somebody? Because the girls still grew up wearing dresses, skirts, and it wasn't probably till they got teenage level where it was almost like everywhere you went, you saw women in pants all over the place. Pantsuits, pantsuits, pantsuits. But never understanding, nor were they teaching that in the church, that that's the curse that they weren't supposed to be in. They were just talked about as what's wrong with pants because they didn't symbolize. I've had people tell me, and in UK and in over here, the two finger thing is the one finger in the middle in the UK. So everything has its meaning, and if you got to learn what it means because it's a symbol, it symbolizes something. But in this country, the devil is so smart, he takes away what things symbolize, and you don't know what they really mean. So you just do them, or they put label of fashion on them, and you say, it's just a fashion. No, it has a meaning. There's a meaning behind the thing that it is, and that's why they set up certain things around the perimeters about that. What that means. You can't just go stick your middle finger up and tell everybody now, that means I love you. Yeah, right.
Well, yes, sir. Now that you saying certain things, now actually it's funny. 40 years later, now I actually understand the whole, hearing the stuff that you're saying, I fully understand why they made girls wear tights because they were so much thicker and you couldn't see through them. But we used to rag on the girls because they had tights on. Like, it's hot outside, you gotta wear them things. And like, what's wrong with you? But it makes sense why the parent made them wear it.
Yes, especially if you think of the parents you're talking about, what happened when they came up. See, when they came up, there was no clear. The stockings were white.
Right? Yeah. And it actually, still in my time, it was mainly still white and black. I mean, as I got a little bit older, you started seeing different, more colors start coming out. But it was mainly just white and black.
Yes, sir. And the black lady came out because people said, well, why can't we wear black stockings and black in it? And then later they put some fishnets with it. And I started, because the devil is always going to take something and pervert it. But the reason they wore white, because white had a symbolism. White is pure, it's right, it's the best thing. That's why racism uses white. The folks don't look white. They can put their hand up next to your hand. They don't white. They're not white. They're peachy, whatever, but it sure ain't white. But,
yes, sir.
But anyway, that's the reason they had the white tights on, because it was easy for them to take cotton, which was cotton bleached, and cotton looked like it's bleached, so it's white. So you put on white tights, white in church. You wore all white to represent you were clean girl. You got on white. You put on any other color, and they're like, "What is you? You ain't clean. You fast girl. Fast." Back then they call you fast tail girl.
Okay, so you mentioned about a lady was what you were looking for. So, what were the traits in a lady once you actually got a lady that you would actually look to see if she was actually marriage material?
That's pretty simple, son. The lady, again, she had morals. I mean, there was just things she didn't say. There was women that went to the club, and you knew who the lady was at the table. You know how you knew she was the lady at the table? First thing you knew.
How?
She didn't drink. She had a cup there and a glass there, and in it had Pepsi, Coke, orange juice, to give the appearance that she wasn't slow, what do they call it? Goody two-shoe, want to fit in more, don't have no fun, don't know how to have no fun. So you didn't want to have the opposite name. You didn't want to be called loose, that one, or you didn't want to be called, some old maid, that talk about you. Old maid.
Yes, sir.
So you could tell because she didn't have, first of all, she just, she ain't looking and asking for no drink. She got the same drink sitting in front of her. And then the next thing is she's watching the person. Because back then, women went out and, 3 or 4 women sit at the same table watching each other. Watching for who? The wolf and the dog. He wasn't looking for no lady. He trying to go and have sex for the night. So that was the difference. If you was in the mode that you were out and you just a clubber, you weren't really looking for no lady. So you saw the lady right away and said, okay. And I saw a sister, you heard of her, know her, and she was at the club, and we laughed at her every now and then. She was at the club, and I said, you don't belong out here. She said, why you say that? I said, because you're a lady. You don't belong. You don't even get out on the dance floor. I said, so why are you? Because these are my friends, my relatives. They come in here too. And we was at the club Zodiac back then. Zodiac on 11th Avenue. And it was like that. I met some ladies, and I said, if I ever change, but I don't think I'm going to ever change, I'm looking for somebody like you. And I didn't change till God saved me 76 at the end of the year. So all that other time, I wasn't looking for no lady. Even when I pretended to be married, she wasn't really all the way a lady. She had tendencies. She had some tendencies, but she smoked and did other things like I did. So. And ladies, that's the next thing. Ladies didn't smoke cigarettes. Not out no public.
So hold on. So I have a question. Why? What made you pretend to be married?
Well, to be truthful, me and the young lady liked the way we hit it on with smoking. She was athletically kind, so she was the kind, since I was a worldly man, that kind of fitted, followed me, wanted to do what I did. Without saying too much, we operated like we were married. So back then, to operate like you were married, you had to be married. So we agreed to pretend like we was married so we could keep doing everything. We didn't just want to do some of it. We wanted to do all the things. So our parents told us, they was never back in the day, y'all can't live together and be together and just go around and sex is the last thing y'all supposed to do when you ain't married. We pretended to be married.
I get you, sir. So basically to enjoy what you all were, basically you both agreed to keep doing what you were doing in order to actually do what you were doing without having any hassle.
Well, it was a big hassle because remember what we're talking about between 73 and therefore. From that point still, it would have been dishonoring her. She would have been looking like less than a lady for me and her to be doing things that only married people are supposed to do. But once you said married, and hey, all things go. So our parents got off of it. Y'all been together for a while. Why don't y'all get married? Because they pressured you. Because they didn't want you to be a fornicator. Or worse than that, be a whoremonger.
And that's kind of interesting that you say that, because you already clarified that your parents weren't church people. Was her parents church people?
No. She later got to be more church people.
No. I ain't talking about her. I'm talking about her parents.
No, her dad wasn't there.
Oh,
so she had a stepdad. So her stepdad and her mama, they weren't church people. No, they went to a church. I'm not going to get the denomination, but that church was lenient for that time. So that's why you had some people out in the street. They was out on Saturday, understand, and they repented on Sunday.
Well, I see, but it's still kind of interesting because considering the fact that, well, yeah, it's interesting to hear it based on my time, but it's just like you said, it's just a big vast difference, because even though her parents weren't church, and your parents weren't church, it was pretty much the morals and integrity of them being together. And that's kind of interesting to hear it based on my time, but it's also, it's just a big vast difference, because even though her parents weren't church and your parents weren't church, it was pretty much the morals and integrity of them being together. And that's kind of interesting to hear it based on my time, but it's also, it's just a big vast difference, because even though her parents weren't church and your parents weren't church, it was pretty much the morals and integrity of the way of the times was you're doing certain things, you're gonna that's actually married what married people do. So you either be married or you don't. So it was pretty much basically holding up the standard of marriage and the whole namesake and value.
Yes, sir. See, even in the Bible, those women that were harlots, they still got respect because they did things in a respectful way in the area that the harlots were, and they dressed like they were. If that makes any sense to you. So they put on harlot garments, so that they were allowed. Even the married man was allowed to go to the harlot and not looked down upon, because there was one person in the Bible, he was supposed to give his son to his daughter-in-law, but he didn't. So later on, God let it be so. She dressed up as the harlot, and she had sex with her father-in-law, and she was smart enough to get his ring and everything to indicate. And so one of them turned her in and said she played the harlot, and they were going to stone her. And then she said, well, and he asked, well, who is there, some particular person that you had this baby by that he may know? And she showed him his emblems and stuff, and he was dumbfounded, to say the least. And he said, she has been more, I can't paraphrase it the way I want. She has been more honorable, that's the word. She has been more honorable than I am. And I have disgraced my name because I was dishonest. I did not follow through and give her someone to keep my seed going through her, which was an honor. So she could have had a boy child. That would have been a great honor, because to have a man child has always been the greatest honor. That's why you see that in the Bible. You don't see too much about the female honor. The honor comes through the man and still comes through the man's name. So there was a big difference. A big difference. Big difference. So you honored your man's name. You just honored that. And then so if I was caught in and I'm doing fornicating and everything, that didn't look good in my street Negro, blah blah blah, street blah 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 blah. And the rascal ain't no good, man. He ain't no good, man. All he do is drink and party all the time. Can't keep a job. And then it's saying the same sad stuff about the female. So that, like you say, that it was just because people had morals and integrity, and there was shame still and conviction. Even if you didn't go to church twice a year, you didn't really have to back then, because there was a standard set already. This is bad person, that's good person. You could put your money down. You could say your word was your bond. You said, hey, you see, we were at a time that lie, pants on fire. You didn't want to get caught to be a liar. That was the last thing you wanted to be called as a liar. Worse than anything, to be called a liar. You're a liar.
Well, that still existed until I was like 7 years old. We said that when we were at least until we were 7. But you spoke on the man child and all the importance of the man. Was there ever a time that you went to a lady's house that you were dating or courting, whatever, and you had to get the approval from the mother? And if it did happen, how many times did that actually happen?
I don't hear so good. So did you say approval from the lady?
From the
mama?
Mother?
Never. Never. Nor did I have any friends that had to get an approval from the mama. Again, because I expressed to you, back then, the man was still the man, and the woman recognized that. Back then, she would tell you, I don't need to have to tell your daddy or your uncle or your granddaddy yet. Because men were highly respected in the African American home back then, big time still.
And I presume it was also when you said the Caucasian, you grew up in Air Force or the Air Base. I presume it was the same way with them too.
Yes, sir. It was across the board everywhere. Man was still. And matter of fact, it was my group that the devil used the most to change things. My group. The women started coming out in the mill and started wanting their own money. I don't need no dude to give me out. I'm gonna work that job like he worked. That competitiveness changed where I want to compete against a man, not against a woman. And then do the Caucasian men starting to say my better half was the wife, because for a long period of time we stopped being married because they began to break our homes up. We weren't making enough money. They got smart enough to put us on the bottom of the toilet form in a different way. Before we could work in our home neighborhood and become a millionaire. We had several areas like that. Different cities, Durham, or out there in Oklahoma, they took a ride and killed and burned up about 300 different places in Oklahoma, the Tulsa area, because the Caucasian folk got upset about colored folk having so much like them. They rioted against that. But our riots and things have been out of pain to get someone's attention to know, okay, we're being abused big time, bad.
Well,
But they taught to disrespect African American men, and that's still going on today. And the women were used to do that. The women began to disrespect the men. So there was never that didn't happen, because at that time the women still held the men up as they. He is it.
Okay. Well, sir, since you mentioned that, I think I may have to bring you on to talk about some stuff like that again on a different occasion. Yeah, since you've experienced you were part of the racism era back in the 50s and 60s. I'm sure you can more or less tell us plenty of stories about your time on an Air Force base.
Son, you can believe this. We were in an area where the Caucasian man told all of Europe they could tell, because they were allowing us to go into these areas, into the military. They were afraid that the Caucasian women of Europe might be inquisitive and want to indulge and kiss and other things with the colored, as they call them, soldiers. So to put fear in them, they told the whole world that we were monkeys. And we really had a tail. And we were good at retracting that tail up into our tail and in our clothes and hide it. And do you believe people believe that across the world?
Yeah, because so you telling that, sir, just instantly made my mind think of Dragon Ball Z, as the Saiyans would call Frieza called them monkeys, and they used to hide. At one point, they would either hide their tail or their tail would stick out, and they got a lot of power from their tail, and they end up turning to the great apes. But some of us kind of speculate why they would possibly use that similar analogy, but yeah.
Well, that's the difference still, yeah. They use this analogy for fear because they did not want the African Americans to come over there and pick them a Caucasian woman. Remember, you couldn't do that back in the States at the time. And pick you a Caucasian woman from Europe and call yourself, marry her, and bring her back to the United States. So that was the main reason, because and some still did. They still ended up marrying one and bringing them back. And so that's where the most of quote back then called interracial marriages came from, the servicemen finding him a woman because she got inquisitive looking for the tail. So when I got in Canada, we got shipped there, and me and my brother, the Big Mac, we're going and playing tag. We played outside a lot, so things were different. You made up games and you stayed outside and stuff. They didn't want you in the house around the grown-ups and all that around the country. So you stayed outside all the time. So we're outside playing tag and that with our two Caucasian neighbor children, a boy and a girl. The boy was a little older than me and my brother, and the girl was closer to our age. So they kept patting us on our backside. And so I told my brother, hey, Big Mac, I didn't call him Big Mac then, Robert, do you get pat on the butt? We ain't getting pat on the arms and nowhere on the butt. So finally, I got them together, both of them, and I said, why do y'all only pat us in one spot and tag us in one spot? And they looked at each other, and I said, why? Because we naive. This is the 50s now. So we naive. And he said, tell him what Daddy told him. Tell him what Daddy told him. He said, I can't, no. I said, well, if you don't, I'm going to keep asking you till you do, and then I'm going to ask my daddy. No, don't ask your daddy. Don't ask your daddy. So we had a duplex, and the one that lived next door, he was underneath my dad as a sergeant. And so he had told his children, because he had a daughter, stay away from him, because he wanted to teach her young to stay away from colored boys. So now he done told her we got tails, and she was scared of us, really. He didn't want to play at first because he was scared of us. When they get mad, their tail might come out. So they told us that Daddy said, y'all got tails and that. So we trying to figure out, how do y'all hide the tails? So we kept packing. We so dumb too. I finally, Big Mac say, Robin say, what are we supposed to do? We know we ain't got no tail. I told him, I said, I'm gonna pull my pants down next time and show I ain't got no tail. You gonna do that? Yeah, I don't want nobody thinking I got a tail. I ain't no monkey. We live. We weren't even 10 years old. We were maybe 8 years old or something like that. I had no tail. We started feeling back there too. When they tell us, I said, why were we hiding this thing? I ain't never seen the tail come out. When we go boo boo, don't the tail come out. Don't hide no tail. So anyway, long story short, eventually me and my brother asked my daddy. He was so red hot. He was hot. Where y'all get this tail thing from? He said, because he remembered how they said that in Europe when he was over there, in Korea and everything. And all over there, they telling everybody all over the world and that side of the world that we were monkeys and had tails. And that's why they was able to treat us the same way, bad too, like an animal. They ain't no human beings, they're animals. They're animals. They're not human beings, they're animals. So that stuff was real. I lived it for my own personal life. I'm a monkey.
Yes, sir. I'll definitely go bring you back on for stuff like that. Yeah, because it's amazing. We're talking about, the whole dating and relationship thing, but it's really amazing to actually hear my own parent say things that were still deep rooted into racism, and that really wasn't. Just thinking about it, knowing that my parent, that wasn't long ago.
Yes, sir. Alexa, what was the great African-American boxer? Joe Jackson?
Here's something I found on the web. According to NPR.org, Jack Jackson became the first African-American heavyweight champion of the world in 1908.
That's it, Jack. They did not like Jack Jackson. I was thinking of Jack Jackson. Because Jack Jackson was used by different Caucasian people to make a bunch of money boxing and blooding up Caucasian boxers with nose. He got so good he ended up being the heavyweight champion, Jack Jackson, in the 1800s. However, back then, only certain people got to look at Caucasian women. So Jack Jackson took his advantage of doing it, and they did. Some of them really didn't like it. They tried to lynch him some of everything for looking at him. So Jack Jackson had some Caucasian girlfriends. And when they gave us some freedom, the first thing some of the colored men said, I'm going to go get me one of them white lollipops. What you gonna get a white lollipop for, man? I'm gonna get one just because they said I couldn't have one. And remember how many times they took our daughters, they took our sisters, and they took them and they just did what they wanted sexually to them. Well, now the laughs on that. I'm getting me one of theirs, and I'm gonna marry her and have me some brown babies by his daughter. And that's what happened. And then they didn't want it to happen more because the Europeans came over and they didn't have that same racist thing as down south. Well, some of them went to the north and went to marrying colored men. And then, they went through all that, different things happened. But things really have changed in that area somewhat. You can see it down south somewhere. You got some mixed marriages. But that was something that reason a lot of African American men went to get Caucasian women for the spite of it. Not so much they fell in love with spite of it. Because sometimes you look at, they didn't have a real good looking Caucasian woman. You say, you married that, you could have done better than that. But that's the reason, was to get something that was forbidden. And that's a part of what the life is today, is people, they trying to get a hold of something forbidden. God forbid for a woman to be a head and be a man. It's all through the Bible. She learned from home. Her husband was the teacher. But we way away from track from that. So, it is what it is, and you learn to live with what it is. This is now. So.
Yes, sir. Well, sir, I 100% appreciate you and all of the stories that you told and that transpired in your life. Some were quite humorous, and some were quite eye-popping. But all in all, it was highly appreciated. 100% highly appreciated. Yes, sir. Well, once again, highly appreciated. We've been at this for just a little bit over an hour, and we're gonna bring this portion of it to a close. More or less, we may keep talking afterwards, but at this point, 100% highly appreciate your time setting aside to talk with us on today, and thank you, sir. 100%.
You're welcome, sir. To me, it wasn't even, I forgot that you make this is some type of interview. I was just telling things that I experienced in my life. And that's what I saw. And I'm thankful I came up when I did, because I caught the good tailpin piece of it, where people were still being genuinely, men were men and women were women. And ladies were ladies and gentlemen were gentlemen. Yet you only had 4 types of people. You had ladies, you had gentlemen, you had women, and you had men. You didn't have a he, she, a she, he, none of that stuff.
Well, and pretty much in a nutshell, all what you told is pretty much why the scene is tainted and terrible now. There's basically no integrity. There's hardly any ladies, and the ones that men knew were ladies, they didn't taint those ladies basically. And it's different in my era now, because I see a lot of guys, they'll see a good looking woman and they don't care, they just run and jump into the bed with her. It's none of the, oh no, I'm not going to touch you because you're a lady, so no, you're just off limits. That doesn't exist anymore.
Well, in everything there is always a why. So that's a whole nother topic, a whole nother time. Why?
Yes, sir.
But I made some of it plain. Why? Because you taught that. Things are taught. The children aren't bad. The children aren't taught to be good. That's the problem. Women aren't ladies because they're not taught to be ladies. The women taught their mothers taught them how to be ladies. The mothers that came up in my time stopped teaching girls how to be ladies. That's the problem. Because them themselves didn't want to be ladies. So what you going to teach somebody something that you didn't want to be? The mamas back then wanted to be a lady. But no other way to be. I want to be a lady. It was a great honor. See, they don't see the honor to it. They gave up a lot. They gave up a lot. So now they work hard and everything. They get heart attacks, stress. They get all the things men got. Plus what they get. They female stuff too. So, like, then the sad part is they can't get away with it. They still got to have a man somewhere in their life. They still got to have one. He there somewhere. If he ain't but Uncle Joe or Papa, Granddaddy. But there's some man still there in their life that's helping them.
True. true. And that is what I already understood, but I definitely, and I've been saying it before, but I definitely wanted people to hear what you said because um, I always say that women women just, well, me personally, it's 100%. Women do not intimidate me. A woman is not an intimidating factor. Another man poses an intimidating factor, and you brought that pretty much clearly when you said you went to the young lady's house and you saw her dad there. You thought twice about doing anything, and that was why I asked you the question about in your time did a mother, did you ever have to get her approval as well? You said no, that never happened. So that really signified that the women technically are really not a factor. The whole thing with a man is another man's presence that makes him think twice about doing anything because he brings more harm possibly to him. You have to actually really think twice before you do something with another man because he's a possible threat to you, not a woman.
Yes, sir. And to make it even more plain, we are creatures which are of mammals. And in the mammal world, the male is the stronger and the one that is the one to protect. So you don't need 15 bulls to protect the herd. But you better believe it's the bull when you come up there, you ain't worried about the
cows. No, sir. You see that one bull, you're gonna think twice.
That's correct.
even if it was in the bullfighting ring, if they throw nothing but cows up there, most people ain't gonna think nothing about no cow. They ain't finna run away from no cow. Let that bull come out there. You run for your life.
It is the same way with the male lion. They put the male lion out there in the den. They didn't put a bunch of female lions out there. They put that male lion. He was big and strong and everything. Enough to scare you, you know. So you're right. I looked and seen that lion sitting in that chair. The bull was over there, and I said, I'm ready to tangle with this. And that changed things because later, when they got their own place in the projects and gave them food stamps and told them they didn't need no man, all that changed. Because now you know you knock on the door, ain't no bull there. You're looking around, ain't no gorilla there, ain't no lion. Yeah, you can get this and you can get on out of here.
Well, all right, sir. Will, it was 100% pleasure talking to you, listening to everything that you told. I thank you so much.
Yeah, sir. I appreciate it. I'm honored.
Yes, sir. Well, on that note, everyone, you know, as I always say, fix your face, fix your spirit. Will Mike Craven, we out of here. Be easy.
How y'all doing out there? So I do gladly appreciate if you've gotten to this point in the video after watching the interview that I conducted with Mr. McCraven. There were some insightful things said, and there were things said in regards to the past, and it was very interesting to hear some of that stuff I've never heard before. So I truly do appreciate that. And my biggest takeaway from it was that women aren't ladies like they used to be, which it was a big thing for them to be ladies, as Mr. McCraven was stating throughout the whole segment. It'd be nice that we'd actually be able to experience that again, based on some of the accounts that he said. We can actually mix the old with the present. In this day and age, it seemed as if feminism has taken over, equality and equal rights, and a lot of women trying to be on the same page as men. So it's a real interesting thing. I do remember him saying some stuff about how it affected him in regards to holding the door open for women. I have noticed though that since I've been a father, I've been a lot more wise with how I do that. So my response in regards to having the doors open is not the same as it was. Because at one point, I will say that women did act very rude, but at this point in my life, I make my son open the door, and I actually go through the door first. I have him hold the door open, and I go through the door, and I stand to the side and make sure the room in the area is secure, and then they proceed through. But most women generally actually stop and they're a bit taken by it, but they really appreciate that my son's actually holding the door. So it goes over a whole lot differently than as opposed to me opening the door. So yeah, they tend to love it more when he does it as opposed to when I do it. You know, the kid thing, he's still 9, so he still has that cute factor to him, and you know, oh, so adorable and all that good stuff. So that aspect doesn't go the same when it's him. But yeah, it's definitely a different time from what I remember from when I was a kid. And I do remember a lot of the stuff that he did say when the course of the early 80s. So a lot of stuff I still remember from my childhood. Fortunately, blessed with great memory. But hopefully we, you know, like I said, we can bridge the gap some kind of way in regards to this whole dang world. Yeah, well, one of the other big things that he did say was they dated to be married. They entered courtship. You know, I see a lot in my time where people just dating to just pretty much have sex and get a fling, and if the sex is great, then we'll see what happens after it. So that didn't happen then, and you know, I noticed that change in my own life during the early 2000s. I never forget, was at a particular woman's house, and that was my college years. And yeah, the whole time we were there, it was on BET, and every commercial break was Trojan condoms. So then I'm sitting there like, I hope she got something, because this may lead to something. Needless to say, her mother walked through the door, so nothing transpired right when it was getting ready to. So yeah, but yeah, I noticed the change then in the early 2000s. So yeah, there's been a change. Hopefully, you know, well, hopefully, you know, like I said already, we can bridge the gap. That's about the best you can hope for. Definitely would love to have experienced the whole thing that he was saying as far as the ladies and all that stuff, the meeting of the minds and all that good stuff, instead of just arouse me and all that. But whatever. So with that being said, gladly appreciate your time if you've gotten this far. Hopefully it's some fat being put on your head, as I love to say. You know, as I always say, scale the fish, spit out the bones, fix your face, fix your spirit. Just take in as much as you can take in this life. Learn what you can learn. Apply what you can apply. Most important thing in this life is gaining knowledge. And then right after that, you have to have understanding. And in order, once you have the understanding, you then have the wisdom and the application to apply it to your life and the situation that you need to apply it to. So, appreciate you. Much love to you. Blessings, and all that good stuff. Hopefully to see you again. Like I said, hit that like, subscribe button, and be easy.